everyone, welcome back to another film log update video. So yes, here we are this time with number 3 in this series, of course. And yes, this is kind of a series that I started a few months ago now, just to kind of cover the the films that I've watched within a set amount of time, watched or rewatched, of course. And not every single film will be mentioned here, but just ones that I kind of, well, most of the films really that I kind of see fit to at least mention. This is of course the third one, so the films from March and April this year that I've watched or rewatched, of course, and just to kind of, it's a series that I set up, with the purpose really of just films maybe I don't get around to reviewing due to time or just the kind of desire to. I don't want to necessarily review every single thing that I watch. It would be impossible, but even still, I wouldn't want to, because there's so many films that I kind of try to at least watch at least a kind of a film a day, whether that be a short film, kind of maybe even simply a 10-minute film, maybe a day here and there, within a set amount of weeks, just so I'm watching something, and so I wouldn't be able to talk about every single film in a review. So this is kind of for for kind of a way to kind of just express my opinions on most of the things that I've been watching, and of course to discuss in a general way with, of course, you viewers. So yes, here we are starting off with the 1st of March, and yes, one of the films was Diamonds Are Forever. I've reviewed that, of course, as we've been going through the Bond films once again, and it's something that I love doing. Of course, James Bond is just one of my very, very favourite franchises. Absolutely. Diamonds Are Forever, as I've kind of said in my review, it's not one of my favourites. I don't like the film really, but it's not one of my favourites at all. I'm not a big fan. You can check out my review for that, but yeah, I guess that's just one of the ones that I don't like. And on that same day, I watched The Love Bug, and of course, if you don't know, it's kind of the first Herbie film, of course, and yes, I'm not a fan of that either. I've seen a few of the Herbie films, and this is the first one, and speaking on this one, I don't like it. I'd seen it before. I never really. I wanted to kind of give it, I guess, another try. And just really kind of trying to get into it, and trying to get invested in that sense. There was some. There's some charming moments, but overall it was just, I don't like that film either. So yeah, not exactly the best start to March, considering as well, end of February was No Country for Old Men, and things like that, and Trainspotting. So that, it wasn't the best start of March, but that's just how it is. And one of the next feature films that I watched was The Grandmaster, and this is a Wong Kar-wai film. So yeah. I'd seen one other film from this director before, and I didn't like that film. And this film here is basically another take on the Ip Man story. So yeah, it's very, very different, to the Donnie Yen Ip Man film, and I loved that film. It's absolutely amazing. Ip Man is just. The Donnie Yen version is one of my favourite films of the century. It really, for me, it's an absolute masterpiece. Nothing bad to say about that. And even the second one, I've not seen 3 and 4 yet, but the second one I love as well. But the first one in particular, really just blew me away. And I think The Grandmaster is just a film that doesn't, it certainly pales in comparison to Ip Man, and on its own, I think. Yeah, it's just a film I don't like either. Unfortunately, I didn't like it. I wasn't engaged, and it's such a kind of a story with so much potential to be a great cinematic piece. But The Grandmaster for me, just I wasn't invested in the way it was made, and the kind of stylistic choices of just. There was a lot of close-ups in this film, but very, very in a strange way, and it was just kind of. I found it quite a confusing film in the way it was shot. Of course, I'm very much well versed, in this whole kind of in the story, but just even then, it was very, very muddled. This, and just something that there was some good acting from Tony Leung. I think actually was very good in the film, but really, I didn't care for the film overall as a piece. It just wasn't, wasn't a film that I was engaged with really overall, but it had some interesting moments, and yeah, it's just not for me as an overall piece personally, but yes. Next up is Clue. I reviewed that film a while back, of course, and yeah, check that out, my review of that. But that's a film that I absolutely love, and saw it for the first time, of course, then, and reviewing it, and I just absolutely love that film. It's such a charming, mysterious, but just highly enjoyable film that, I love Clue, and yes, Tim Curry, especially Christopher Lloyd as well. Check out my review for that, but I really, personally, a big fan of that one, and that really kind of lifted the mood, really, and just wonderful film. I would highly recommend to anyone. Certainly fans of comedies, fans of kind of mainly one location films. Really wonderful stuff, and yeah, check out my review of that. Next up is Bloodsport. This is a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and yes, it's a kind of martial arts, kind of a campy film here, and yeah, a film that you could say that I loved, and it's very strange. The first kind of 10-15 minutes is like a different film. It's mainly kind of flashbacks and stuff. It's very strange. I didn't really enjoy that part of the film, but the rest of the film, mostly I loved. And overall as a piece, I think it's a very good film actually, and it's not it's quite a divisive film. It's not really considered that good by many, but I personally had a great time with it mostly. After that initial act, and I just think it's hilarious. Really over the top action film, and just a really charming film, really charming experience. It's not a film that I could recommend to everyone, but I personally, I did really have a great time with this, and yeah, very good film, Bloodsport, and some really amazing, choreography, and just action scenes, and it's just full of just really campy moments that I really loved. So yes, Bloodsport, and Live and Let Die as well was on that day as well. Of course, I reviewed that. Another Bond film, of course. Next up, and this is kind of it's part of a series of films that I kind of, just out of intrigue, purely out of intrigue, and just to kind of maybe compare them and see maybe how bad actually they are, really, and in a kind of succession of watching them all in in order, this time around. The scary movie films, and I'm not going to talk about the first three because that was last year that I watched them. But yeah, I like 1 and 3. 2 is really awful in my opinion. But I'm not going to get into them too much. But this year, because I had a few months break, from watching, 3 and 4, and in March was 4, and actually this month, would you believe, I watched Scary Movie 5, and these films, they're kind of they're ones that I've been watching on days where maybe I'm not in the mood to kind of watch a mind-blowing masterpiece, and maybe just or kind of haven't got as much time, kind of thing. So just to stick on, as a film that I need to kind of tick off to watch, properly watch, and just to see, of course I'd seen the first 4 before, and 5 I'd seen, I saw the other day, and for the first time. But Scary Movie 4, we'll just quickly say, it's just a really kind of just awful film, in my opinion. It really is horrendous, and David Zucker, of course, directed this film, so it's quite sad as well, in that sense. He's made some great films, and it's just David Zucker, the Zuckers, of course, but David Zucker, directing this film, and it's very sad to see, but yeah, this one is just really awful. It's actually it's worse than Scary Movie 2, and we'll get to the 5th. Unfortunately, we'll get to the 5th very soon in this video, but yes, I wouldn't advise watching Scary Movie 4. It's just, it sucks the life out of me. It really did, and just made me feel really just drained afterwards, because it was just such a kind of assault on the senses, and one of the worst films I've ever seen. But we'll get to 5, because 4 is much better than 5, and yes. Next up is Return to the 36th Chamber. I've been watching the quite a few of the Shaw Brothers films. I watched them mainly in March, and yeah, this kind of 36th Chamber series. Actually, it turns out, speaking to people, that's actually kind of not too many people have seen this trilogy kind of thing. But yes, Return to the 36th Chamber was definitely the worst of the three, but I did enjoy it. It's kind of an average but charming martial arts film, and yes, just some really good action, etc. But the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, the original, in this trilogy, that's the one that I love, and that was watched, around this time, of course. But yeah, I reviewed that film, and it's the only Shaw Brothers film, that I reviewed. Check out that if you want to kind of hear my thoughts, on that film. But that's a great one for me, and I love that film. But yes, The Room, of course, I reviewed that one. Not too much more to say on that. It's just you can check out my review on that. But it's a hilarious film. It's a bizarre film, and I do love it. I love watching the film. I've seen it a few times, and it's a film I'm sure many will understand. It's not a film that many consider good, in that sense. But a lot of people love it, for what the film is, in terms of just enjoying this experience and kind of interacting with this unique film. But yeah, The Room I love, although obviously I don't think it's a good film. But yes, next up is another Shaw Brothers film, Five Element Ninjas. So yes, also referred to as Five Elements Ninjas, which it's very interesting. It's very strange, but yes. This is a good film. I definitely enjoyed it, and I love the kind of variety in the action in this. Very, very creative film. In the kind of different the five ninjas, of course, and the different unique attributes they have. Again, a very kind of wacky, over the top film. Another Shaw Brothers film, of course. Definitely one of the better ones that I saw. Very enjoyable, and good film, definitely. And yes. Next up is The Disaster Artist. Now this is a film, maybe I said I'd review this, when I saw it, of course. The Room, and then seeing The Disaster Artist, of course, James Franco, and yes. This is a film, I might review soon, or I might give it a rewatch, and then, a few months down the line, give this a review perhaps. But, in terms of my initial thoughts, it really blew me away, and it's just a stunning film, very inspirational. The whole story behind this, I kind of discussed in my review for The Room itself. It's very, very inspirational in a kind of ironic way, and I think this film here tapped into that perfectly, and it's definitely one of my favourite films, of 2017. It's an absolutely stunning piece of work, and it really it was better than I could ever imagined it to be. Wonderful film, and it's just a film I can't wait to watch again, really. But again, it's also one that kind of leaves you with this maybe a sad feeling. So maybe I don't want to rush into that. But yes. Other films, The Five Venoms, another Shaw Brothers film. That was, that's kind of a good film again. It's definitely got some flaws with that one. It's very, very strangely violent. In a way that actually kind of it did, it didn't work too well in some of the violence, actually, in the way it was done. It just kind of took me out of the experience. It was a bit gross, actually, that one. But yeah, it was a good film. Not much more to say there. And the Monty Python trilogy, I've been watching every kind of 2 weeks, really, the main, three films, of course. Of course, Holy Grail, beginning with that, and it's a film that I did talk about last year, and I'd never seen it before. That was my first watch, and I did say, of course, I loved it. Great film, and instantly after that, I think back May time last year, a month after that, I kind of was looking back, and I was thinking, this is more than just a great comedy. This is something quite special, and I think it just grew on me more and more. And finally getting around to watching it again, in March this year, and I want to review them films again. Of course, I watched Life of Brian and The Meaning of Life, and particularly Life of Brian, and Holy Grail have really, they've become something truly special. Really truly special to me. I want to talk about them individually, but let's just say the term masterpiece, will be discussed in both of them, possibly both of them reviews. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. Wow, that's all I can say there. And of course, The Meaning of Life, and it's a great film. That's very interesting to see how it's at times not too popular. I have much to say about them films, so we'll leave it for them reviews. But yes, of course, watching them. Dragon, this is another Donnie Yen film, and it's a decent film. Started off a lot better than it kind of turned out in the second half, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Great action at times, and it's a very interesting film. Other films include Doom, with The Rock, of course, and was not a fan of this. Unfortunately, really bad film. It's got an interesting kind of sequence. The final act, involving a different change of perspective, and fans of Doom and stuff, I guess would maybe be able to take something from that. But the rest of the film is just really boring and poorly made, in my opinion, and a bad film mostly, and some really just uninspired moments, and the performances. It's a shame, The Rock even, I just wasn't a fan of these performances, but yeah, I guess no one really talks about Doom too much. It's not really exactly a film that would be recommended. It's just the one that I weirdly wanted to watch, and just to kind of check it out. I'd never seen it before, and I'm a fan of different Doom games, so yeah, I just wanted to see this film, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that. And some other Shaw Brothers films, The Flying Guillotine. This is a very, very interesting martial arts film, and this is actually one of my favourites that I saw. This is very, very good. Very impressive, and I think it's definitely one of the best that I saw in going through this kind of these kind of films. So yeah, very, very interesting film there. And Shanghai Noon, I reviewed that. Pineapple Express, I really like that film. Really big fan of that. Yes, just some more films. The Man with the Golden Gun, of course. Again, I reviewed that film, and I like it, and I think it's a good Bond film. Not one of my favourites, but yeah, it's a fine film. As I've said before, and yes, Bad Boys. I was just in the mood to kind of watch Bad Boys 1 and 2, and very recently, and then eventually I'll get around to the latest version. Of course, it's not directed by Michael Bay, and of course, when you talk about Michael Bay, many people, of course, have their own opinions on on his films, and I don't think I'll ever sit through all of the Transformers films. I've seen the first mostly. I've seen most of that film. Wasn't a fan at all. Not at all. Pearl Harbor. When I saw that when I was younger, really was not a fan of that. At all. And yes, a few of his other films I've seen before. I've seen The Rock. Which actually I did like. Definitely. But the Bad Boys films, I wanted to kind of watch them again. I'd seen Bad Boys 2, especially, a few times when I was younger. I didn't remember too much about them. I wanted to watch them and see what I thought. And Bad Boys 1 is definitely a good film, actually. I do like these films, and Bad Boys 1, a good film, and very, very enjoyable. The comedy, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together just really makes the film. But Bad Boys 2 is actually quite a special film. I actually do love this film. Bad Boys 2, believe it or not, is my favourite Michael Bay film. I love this. It really knows the elements of what it is, kind of thing, and it's just such a campy, kind of a comedy action film, but it's such a I think, a well-made action film. You know, what it's trying to be, and I loved this film. You know, I liked it a lot more than the first, and you know, yeah, very different opinion, but I do think Bad Boys 2 is, you know, it's definitely a film that I love personally. So yes, Bad Boys 2. Next up is Shane from 1953, and this is, of course, it's a film that I saw you know, last year for the first time all the way through, and yes, I reviewed that. You know, I think it's a great film. I just wanted to rewatch this, and you know, it's a film that actually, you know, has grown on me even more. You know, it's just a wonderful film. You know, it's not quite, you know, one of my top 10 kind of westerns, kind of thing there, but definitely a great film. You know, it's a wonderful piece of cinema, magical experience. You know, the way that the film looks is absolutely stunning, and of course Alan Ladd, you know, as our character of Shane, is just legendary. You know, he really is, and I think you know, especially the first half and then the final act is just absolutely stunning, masterful. You know, them parts. The ending, you know, is one of the best I've ever seen. You know, I think actually as well. You know, if you're interested, you know, I'm making a list of my favourite scores. You know, actual, you know, just the scores, not, you know, overall soundtracks, kind of thing, including songs. You know, but just relating to scores, and I think Shane is definitely one of the kind of top 100, you know, or so kind of scores that I've heard. You know, it's a real wonderful film, and yes, George Stevens, you know, of course, directing this, and it's just a stunning film. Of course, I really do think it's a great western, and recommend it, of course, if you've not seen it. And yes, Shane, check out my review if you want to see my full thoughts on that. But that was a while back, yeah, that I reviewed that. And next up is Skyscraper, again with The Rock. You know, I don't know how, you know, I kind of stumbled upon, you know, I wasn't planning on watching this film, you know, let's put it that way. It was just kind of a spur of the moment kind of thing here. But yes, I didn't really expect much, but I thought it'd be a fun kind of campy, you know, film, and unfortunately, it wasn't even that. You know, it's just a bad film. Unfortunately, you know, I really did not like this one, and yeah, just very painful experience. Unfortunately, just not for me, and yeah, I didn't enjoy this really at all. I think early on there were some decent moments, you know, and just, yeah, some funny moments, but really as the film went on, it really, wow, yeah, again, it kind of sucked the life out of me. Not a good film in my opinion personally, but yes. And True Grit, you know, is the next film. Of course, the Coen Brothers, you know, film here, the kind of the remake, of course, you know, their version, perhaps. You know, stunning film. Reviewed that as well, and you know, just a wonderful film. You know, but I had some issues with that. But yeah, watch my review if you want to see my full thoughts. Again, Summer Wars, of course, an anime film. But yeah, again, you know, I really liked that film, and again, check out my review for that. Very recently done, and yes, A Streetcar Named Desire. Again, you know, I did review this one, but you know, that's really one of the films that's kind of blown me away recently. Just I can't you know, stress enough how much of a masterpiece that one is. You know, it really is something else. And of course, you know, it's definitely one of my favourite kind of Brando films and performances. It really is, and yes, just a stunning masterpiece of cinema, that one. Next up is another kind of martial arts film, and this is one of the very first Jackie Chan films, actually, although very misleading, you know, for a number of reasons, and you know, he is kind of the villain in this film, and very little kind of screen time really, and actually, yeah, this film is called The Heroine, or Policewoman, or Young Tiger, or Rumble in Hong Kong. So yeah, what's very confusing. Why has it got 4 titles? I think maybe there's another one. I'm not sure as well, but you know, very confusing. I don't get. You know, this is just insane how it's got so many titles. But yeah, the film, not good. Very disappointing to see, and yeah, just I wouldn't say it's kind of quite as awful as the kind of you know, the ratings and stuff. Yeah, but I really did not think much of this. You know, it's just yeah, even the action, which you can kind of go to, it's kind of a go-to thing. Martial arts films, just usually give some sort of excitement, or just inspiration for kind of action choreography at least. But even then, I don't think this film really offered that. So yeah, just very disappointing. Definitely a shame to see. I wanted to see more of Jackie Chan because he was very entertaining actually when he was in the film, but very strange thing where he's got a big mole on his face, and it was just things like this. It just wasn't entertaining. It was very flat, confusing, and just unfortunately very poorly made. Just wasn't a good film for me personally. But I'd say check it out. And you may like it, of course. But yes, next up is a big film here. Film that I've seen before many times, of course, and recently picked it up on Blu-ray, and that is Mary Poppins. And yes, fear not, I will review that film. Just trying to find the time because I really want to give that a very long review because it's one of my favourite films. Absolutely, it's just such a wonderful film. And I just love it now more than ever. It's a film that's just even more meaningful and just wonderful to see. Especially on the Blu-ray as well. Just wonderful visuals here. What a beautiful film. We'll get to that. We will get to that. I desperately want to review that film, and yes, I should be reviewing that within the next couple of weeks. And The Spy Who Loved Me. Of course, by the time that this video here is uploaded, I would have already have uploaded that review. So yeah, check out my thoughts on that. The Meaning of Life. Again, I'm going to review that film. On the Waterfront, I reviewed a wonderful Brando film. Not kind of as good as A Streetcar Named Desire. I watched very in close proximity, but in its own right, just a masterpiece for me. And it's not a film that I guess everyone will kind of love. I do understand how one maybe wouldn't be blown away by the film, but it's just it's a stunning film in my opinion, and just such a great narrative, and such a great one of the legendary kind of characters or performances really from Brando of all time. And yeah, stunning film. Wow. Yes, on the same day, would you believe, I watched Scary Movie 5. Now, Scary Movie 5, do I really want to kind of waste my breath on this film? Let's just say, it nearly put me to sleep, and it nearly made me cry. That's how much I really hated this film. Unfortunately, I've never really encountered a film like this. Disaster movie. I kind of, for a dare many years ago, I kind of watched most of the film. I couldn't finish it. It made me feel very sick. And this film here, wow, this is definitely, I would say, the worst film that I've seen all the way through ever. And I just can't even. I don't want to think about this film anymore. Unfortunately, it's an unwatchable film, and I think. Really, I'm quite shocked that it's this bad. I just cannot believe this film. It's just really lost for words. Still, and that experience. Watching on the waterfront. Just out of intrigue to see. I'd heard a few things from even just people I know about how bad it is. But wow, this film, it just really. Was so much worse than I had low expectations, extremely low expectations for this film, but to really to see this film, was by far 0%. That's for sure. It's the worst film I've seen all the way through, and I don't want to ever watch a single moment of this film again. Absolutely unbelievable, unbearable experience, and again, seeing it after on the waterfront, I couldn't believe, how, this is just a terrible film. Actually, no, it's not terrible. That's, I think that's too kind. This is beyond unwatchable. This could even, I have a rating, of course, unwatchable minus. This could be a completely different rating. You know, if I was to ever review this film, which I never will, ever, of course. But yeah, just beyond, you know, what you know, it's not really a film in my opinion. It really is. I'm not going to say anymore. But yes, it's just absolutely. I couldn't believe it. Bridget Jones's Diary. You know, this is a film that I watched quite a few times as a kid, and you know, I love the first one personally, and the second one, The Edge of Reason, I watched as well. You know, shortly after, and you know, I think yeah, I do like the film. Although it's a very disappointing sequel. I've not seen the recent Bridget Jones's Baby, but you know, the first one, you know, that's a film that I do. I love it actually, and yeah, I think definitely check it out actually if you're interested. If you've not seen the film, I do love it. You know, it's a wonderful film in my opinion, and yes, a few short films here and there. The Aviator. This is of course a Scorsese film I never talked about because I'd never seen it until the other day, and let me just say I'll be reviewing that. That's definitely a film that exceeded my expectations. That, you know, is a stunning film, and wow, you know, wow, I can't believe it. You know, it really is something that's you know, clearly not you know, regarded too highly. You know, it's not really talked about too much. Understandably within you know, Scorsese's work, because he's, you know, made so many great films, so many masterpieces. But The Aviator is actually a very special film in my opinion, and I'll get to that. I'll review it absolutely when I have the time. The Condemned. Yeah, just again out of intrigue. I'd seen it when I was younger, and I just wanted to see it. And you know, it's not, you know, a bad film, but it's just not quite a film that I could say I like. Just yeah, you know, check it out if you're interested. Stone Cold, of course, is in the film. Vinnie Jones kind of saves the film a little bit at times. It makes it at least you know, here and there, you know, more enjoyable than it would have been perhaps without him. You know, not a bad film, just not a film that you know, I think it is all that great really either. And yes, I've been watching as well. You know, wrapping up nearly here, but been watching a few MCU films, of course, and I thought I want to go through all these films in order of you know, in the proper order, of course, and I've not seen all of them yet as well. You know, for example, Endgame, and yeah, a few of the more recent ones. So yeah, one of the ones I watched within these last couple of months was the first Avenger, Captain America, of course, and yeah, I love that film. Not everyone loves that film. You know, it's not maybe as talked about. I really love that film. I think it's great, and yeah, just Chris Evans is so good in that film, and just a really such a great film. Great narrative. You know, really, definitely you know, a film that I love. Moonraker. Again, I will review that film, Bond film, of course, very soon. And yes, a few films here. A Quiet Place. You know, this is a film that I wanted to check out. You know, I'd been hearing some really good things about this, and some not so good things about this film. You know, I thought, you know, let's just check it out and see if this is see what I think of the film. And you know, I personally think it's a good film. You know, it's you know, it started off you know, in the first sort of 10 minutes. You know, kind of I was kind of you know, I didn't know what to think, and really the first half an hour, you know, I actually don't like. I think it just didn't really work. It didn't really grab me, and I just think there were some really odd moments that just didn't work for me. But you know, after that, it really picks up massively, and I think overall, yeah, I liked the film. I think it's a good film, and certainly the final act is very tense. It's got some very impressive cinematography, and yeah, it's some good performances all round, and yeah, it's an interesting film. You know, it's not a great film for me at all. You know, there's a few things that really don't work in my opinion, but I'd recommend it. You know, I think you should check it out if you're interested. You know, it's a film that is definitely you know, its own thing. It's very unique, and yeah, very different. You know, basically, yeah, it's not a film that I loved by any standards, but yeah, A Quiet Place, a good horror film in my opinion. But yes, Jonah Hex. Yeah, again, yeah, really, really awful film. Unfortunately, very, very bad. Just yeah, very shocking to see. It just didn't really work at all in any regard. There was an interesting scene when our main character kind of well, I'm not going to give spoilers, but there was a moment early on where he kind of it's an interesting kind of the power that he had and he used and he communicating with someone there. But other than that, I really think this is just really, really bad. Unfortunately, very boring. It's 81 minutes or so long, and I think it was just clearly very, very rushed. Really just patched together. It seems, and I think Josh Brolin himself has said some things about the film. Kind of his thoughts on the film and the experience, and it's very interesting to hear. But yeah, unfortunately, this film was just a big no for me, and I wasn't too interested in seeing it. I just happened to kind of to watch this again. A very, very strange occurrences recently. I've just sometimes been watching films, just kind of without planning them. It's not like me, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Really would not. And yes, very few films here now. Just approaching the end of this video. But yes, The Island of Dr. Moreau. This is a very interesting film. Very, very panned at times. This film is a 70s version, 1977. It's actually, for me, it's a good film. I know it kind of. I was kind of reading up on this. I'd heard about this film, of course, as a kind of a H.G. Wells kind of adaptation. There's been a few, very famously. Well, it's kind of well known at least. The 90s Brando version. So I do want to see that. That's not meant to be too great, at least the consensus there. This one, again, it's not a popular film. I really liked it. I think it's a good film, and I think it's quite effective actually, and very, very thought-provoking, and I just think it was it's an enjoyable film. It was very, very compelling. Certainly, as the film went on, it really started to get me invested and sparked quite a few thoughts, sci-fi elements in there that really got me thinking, and I just really liked it. It's definitely it's not a great film, but yeah, it's a good film in my opinion. I definitely recommend that. Quite an obscure film actually, but I did like it, and yes, The Avengers, another MCU film, of course. Watching that literally the other day, and I love that film. I've seen it about 5 times now, all the way through, and it's a stunning film. I do love that film, and it's of course, it's one of my favourite superhero films personally, and yes, of course I'll be going through all of the MCU films eventually. So The Avengers was one of the more recent ones that I saw in this ordering, and Iron Man 3 was today, which I think is it's an okay film. It's not a bad film. It's definitely not one of the best MCU films in my opinion, and it's especially the second half. The whole kind of the Mandarin kind of scenario there just didn't work for me. But not a bad film either. And then we have First Blood, or Rambo First Blood, of course, Sylvester Stallone. This is a film that I love, and I do think especially the first half is just absolutely stunning. This is a film, of course, very, very famous. I might review this sometime. Who knows? But I do love this film. I've seen it many, many times. It was always one of my favourite kind of at least among my favourite kind of action films. In this kind of just real. It kind of deals with a lot of themes which I'll get into if I do review the film, and it's quite a human film. This in so many regards. The action is really something else, and highly, highly entertaining film. It has some. I have some flaws of the film in the second half, especially, but definitely a film that I love, and yes, I'd recommend it if you've not seen it yet. First Blood, definitely the best in the Rambo films for me. I've seen 2, didn't like that. 3, I couldn't finish, and as well, there's of course, the one that came out in the 2000s. That's, again, I don't like that. But First Blood, definitely the best, and yeah, highly impressive film. Of course, Sylvester Stallone as well, really, really great in the film, in my opinion. And yes, that kind of wraps it up. This video, and yes, tell me your thoughts, of course, on these films. Again, these are just kind of very, very informal, kind of just going through the films that I've watched. Usually sticking to 2 months at a time per video, and yeah, of course, I wanted to watch more, kind of films, within this time. Some of them I've not mentioned, of course, but yeah, even then, I did want to watch more, but I just didn't get around to it. And yes, things that I planned, I just didn't get to, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, of course, I have some of them to review from this video. Kind of ones I've mentioned, including Mary Poppins, of course. And yeah, a film that I love, and yeah, a few more, of course. And yes, going through the Bond films, as always, going through these films. And yes, tell me your thoughts on these films if you want, and leave your opinions on these films. I've mentioned quite a lot, so yeah, there's a lot of talking points here, and yeah, of course, a lot of these films I won't review. So this is kind of all it is, in terms of me giving my thoughts in a video. So yeah, if you're interested in my full thoughts, I've mentioned, of course, a few that I have reviewed. So check out my reviews, of different films that I've mentioned here, and I've maybe said that I've reviewed them. If you want to get more in-depth thoughts, because I can't kind of get too in-depth perhaps in these videos. But yeah, it's a thing that I like to do, and I think it's yeah, it's a thing that usually gets people talking, on the channel, and we can discuss a variety of different films without kind of me doing a review for every single film. And at least then I do get to at least mention the films. I think it's very, very good to do, because at least then I can talk about them, as I've said, in some way, instead of, as opposed to maybe never mentioning them, never kind of get a discussion going there about different particular films. But yeah, of course, as always, I appreciate you watching my videos, and yes, tell me your thoughts, on these films, if you want, if you kind of see fit. And yes, as always, thanks for watching.